This is Charter Local Edition. I'm Brett Pomerance in Victorville today. The road show, the march through California continues. We are joined by Kevin Kane. He is the CEO of the Victor Valley Transit Authority. I was at the Barstow Outlets last night and I saw one of your vehicles. I smiled because I knew I was going to see you today. So give us a sense, what is the Victor Valley Transit Authority?
Well, the Victor Valley Transit Authority is a small municipal bus system.
Not that small.
Well,
You're being
yeah, we've got
humble.
about a $25 million budget.
Not that small.
But when you compare us to something like LA Metro, we're tiny.
Fair enough.
So anyhow, we provide regular bus service 7 days a week to Atlanto, Apple Valley, Hesperia, Victorville, Barstow, and portions of the unincorporated areas.
That's a lot of miles to travel.
Yeah,
the high desert is a large area.
Our service area is about 425 square miles.
And I also understand you have a service that goes down into San Bernardino.
That's correct. We call it our BV link, Barstow
Right.
Victorville link. And that started out several years ago as just 3 days a week from Barstow to Victorville.
Okay.
Then we extended it down into the valley to go to connect with Omnitrans and Metrolink.
Right.
And then also Arrowhead Regional and some
Sure.
other areas.
So let me ask you, you said your service runs at about $25 million. From where does that money derive? How is a public transit authority funded?
Well, many years ago, public transit was privately operated.
Okay.
But then the federal government took over the funding for public transit. So federal government funds, grants from the, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but the Transit Development Act from 1972 provides funds from the state and various other grants. So about 80% of our funding comes from federal grants, and only about 20% comes from the actual fares that people pay.
Really?
Yeah.
I would not have expected the split would be that skewed in favor of, so it truly is publicly funded.
Yes, that's correct.
But what about, for example, acquisition of a bus? Is that funded through a similar formula, or how would that happen?
Yes, it all comes out of those same, what we call apportionments. Those grants are actually not competitive. They're apportioned to us based on our passenger miles, things like that.
So let's talk about the Victor Valley. It's been an interesting 10 years for the high desert. The high desert has faced some real challenges. 10 years ago, 2006, we'd be talking about the go-go era and how housing prices are soaring. And by 2011, the bottom fell out. We're on our way back. It's okay. We're bouncing back here in the high desert. But my question to you is public transportation tied to the economy, or is it counter-cyclical? Because one could argue that if the economy is down, people can't have cars, so they're using more public transportation, or maybe it's not that way.
Well, we did see that when gas prices hit $4 a gallon the first time, ridership around the nation went up. But here at Victor Valley Transit, we've been very lucky. Our ridership has continued to rise before and through the hard times, and it continues now. For instance, since 2006, our ridership on our basic routes that run through those 5 cities has been up about 110%.
And you didn't see either spikes or declines as a result of economic dislocation?
Actually, we found it leveling out, and we came to the understanding that a lot of our riders really don't have a choice. They're riders that have to use public transit. We have what we call transit-dependent people and those who are choice riders. And those transit-dependent people, they wound up combining their trips and taking transit a little bit less. So the people who needed it for the first time built it up, and then the others who cut down on their trips actually helped it level out.
So that's what I was wondering. Did you see a spike in people that needed to use public transit because the economy hit the skids?
We did.
And so how do you manage that type of growth, or was it leveled as you described?
It was fairly consistent and nothing that really spiked beyond what we could handle.
I want to talk more about gas prices because you suggested it, but what happens when gas prices go up? Does ridership go up, at least in the Victor Valley? Do you have to increase fares? Can you increase fares?
We can, but we haven't increased fares since 2007.
That's remarkable.
Yes. We actually are funded very well, and we're very conservative fiscally, and we give back millions of dollars to the cities in surplus transit funds that they use back for streets and roads.
But how is it? I mean, we saw gas prices in 2000, was it 8 and 9, hit $5 a gallon. How are you able not to increase your fares when that happened? I mean, now
That's a
we're
very-
down. Yes, please.
Very good question. We don't use gas. We use.
I
We don't
love
use,
my question. I love my question.
We
Let's-
use
so
com-
let's move. That takes us to the next topic.
Yeah.
Thank you for the segue. And the next topic being technology and advances in technology.
Well, over the years, since I got here in 1998, we've been transferring from diesel fuel to compressed natural gas. And the cost of compressed natural gas costs us, depending on the cost of electricity to compress it, costs us between 65 cents and $1.10 a gallon.
Okay, forgive me. I'm kind of a science nerd and at the same time inept in science. What do you mean compress? If you, to the extent you can explain, because I'm interested.
Sure. Well, you turn on your gas on the stove, and it has about 6 pounds of pressure. Just
Okay.
there. Ours has 3,600 pounds of pressure because we have to fuel. We have to put a lot of that gas
Okay.
into these tanks.
Is it a vapor?
It's a gas. Yes, it's a vapor.
It's a vapor.
So we have to compress it into these tanks so that the buses will run all day.
And so, from where is you getting the compressed natural gas?
Well, we
because
buy-
we know it started to become a popular fuel.
We buy it from Southwest Gas, and then
Okay.
we have these huge compressors that compress it. And then
It
we
doesn't
fuel our
come
buses.
compressed.
No, it doesn't.
And so, what does that look like? Is it a big?
Couple of three big compressors that are all set up in a little fueling station, and then it goes out and we just hook up the tanks just like
Right.
a gas tank,
Okay.
except it's a tight fit so
Right.
the air doesn't get through, and we fill them up and we're good to go.
And so, give us a sense as to how you were able to convert from diesel to compressed natural gas. Could you use the same shell, or did you have to buy entirely new vehicles?
We did it as we replaced vehicles.
I see.
So what we did, and the vehicles look very much the same. The only thing you'll notice is there's above the regular roof, there's a higher section where the tanks are or the vessels are. So, and we have to adjust the engines to accept natural gas versus unleaded or gas.
Now, what does the CNG do in terms of emissions?
It reduces the emissions significantly. That's one of the reasons. We call it clean burning fuel.
Is it truly clean burning?
Yes, it is. Much, much cleaner than diesel or unleaded.
And what about the expense? Is it comparable?
I think I just explained that our cost per gallon is about
Say it
65
again.
cents
I'm
to
still
about $1.10.
taking in all the information, so forgive me.
Sure.
So it really it's a win-win.
It is.
And the cost to convert to I know you did it.
That includes the cost of, you mean the cost of converting?
Right.
The vehicles are about $60,000 more than a standard diesel
But
vehicle.
it amortizes.
Exactly, yeah, very quickly.
Okay, so what else can we expect as we march through this decade in terms of advances? Are we going to have driverless buses anytime soon?
You know, I read somewhere that at some point we will not be allowed to drive ourselves because
Amen.
the driverless vehicles will be much safer.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
No,
Yeah.
I just hope we're alive for that because that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But continue.
Well, some of the other technologies that we have, you can go on our website and look up any route and see exactly where your bus is and whether it's running late or
Oh,
on
that's
time.
good. Okay, that's helpful.
At our bus stops now, we have live information with each route. Not all of our bus stops, but our major points where you can see how long it will be before the next bus your route arrives.
And there's a lot of talk about rail, high-speed rail, California high-speed rail, private high-speed rail. Victorville always seems to be implicated somehow in the conversation. Anything you can tell us about that?
Well, there are two projects. One is the Desert Express, of course, and then the other one
And
is,
you're getting your call right now.
and the other one is the other one is the E220, which is also called the Desert Cross Desert Express. So those two projects are on the books, and it'll be a while before they come to play. But I would imagine that when they become a reality, that we would be providing feeder bus services to the station.
His name is Kevin Kane. He is the CEO of the Victor Valley Transit Authority. We're in Victorville today. My name is Brad Pomerance on Charter Local Edition.